Okay, so yes, it's on recording. Yeah. Okay, so last week I gave you the homework to rewrite the following sentences to make them clearer and simpler, because I told you that whether you are writing or you are writing to present, that is both for writing and speaking, we read that the language should be simpler. Okay, and then we also did activities through which we came to know that whenever we are writing, it needs to be concise. Okay, concise means to the point. Okay, so easier word, to the point, and short, so that people do not get bored. One thing, if it is too long and it is not to the point, or it can create confusion among people, or it would create misunderstanding, or people might not understand your text if it contain difficult vocabulary or structures that are perhaps not known to them. Okay, right? So whatever qualities of good writing and good speech we have done, we'll continue with the presentation skills today, and we'll repeat the same good characteristics that should be found in writing, and they should be present in your speaking as well. So um, we have practiced a related activity also in the form of summary sentences, and summary sentences is also about bringing clarity in your writings. Okay, so let's see what this homework asks you to do. Greenway Tree Farms, because of the strong price for Christmas tree, a larger demand for tree expected during the holiday season, and the improving economy in the eastern and southern regions of the country, will probably experience continued growth in the fourth quarter. Now, what is wrong with this paragraph? Okay, what do you find? What's wrong with this? Why it is not comprehensible in the first reading? Why cannot we just make out the meaning in the first reading? What's wrong? Okay, quickly go to your chat section. What's wrong here? Just tell me one or two things. Okay, we have got an answer from Lareb. Okay. Okay, Maruk and Kiran, both of you are right. Maruk says that there are many clauses. See, uh, and these are not sentences. This is just one sentence. We do not understand. Saima Muhammad, this is what I'm asking. Why is it complicated? Okay. Now look here. We do not find any full stop. That means that the sentence is too long, and it consists of a number of clauses. Okay. And Maruk says that she was unable to find any sequences as well. Right. So what do you need to do is to break it down into smaller, clearer sentences. Maybe two or three would do, right? So you can, of course, you can take the words from here. The words are not really difficult, but it is too long to be called a sentence. There are no sentences. This is just one very long sentence, and one of the characteristics of good writing is to write with shorter sentences, shorter and clearer sentences. Because when the sentence becomes too long, it creates ambiguity, it creates a little confusion where to connect, where to stop. Okay, so right. So we can say what is basically what is your overall understanding is that the economy is improving, right? And it's the Greenway Tree Farms economy, or the economy related to the trees is improving. In which season? Christmas or the holiday, because both seasons are similar. You can write that the economy is improving during the holidays in the Greenway tree farms. Why? Because of higher demands of trees. That's it. Okay. So the economy is improving because of larger demand of trees during the Christmas or the holiday season. That's it. Okay. So basically, the first passage that was given to you for the homework is about the progress in the economy or the improvement in the economy because of higher demands of trees, right? So perhaps this Greenway tree farms is earning more profits this year. Okay, so you don't have to put this eastern and southern region of the country. So you don't have to tell, but it's just about the improving of economy due to high demand of trees of the Greenway tree farms. Okay, now something similar is wrong here. Very long sentences, lots of commas and just one full stop. So you need to break it down into smaller sentences. Okay, or if you want to write just one sentence, then it should be shorter. Okay, so what's the problem here is that the new employees confuse the customers due to lack of knowledge about the products. That's it. Okay, so the new employees who are perhaps sales representatives, if you want to write that, it's okay. Otherwise, the new employees, they confuse the customers due to lack of their own knowledge. Okay, that's it. So in a shorter sentence, you have clarified it. Okay, so I'm just giving you one of the correct answers, but you might come up with maybe better answers as well. Okay, I'm not saying that only my answer is correct. This can be one of the correct answers, right? I hope it is clear and you would be able to do this, and this becomes part of your assignment. I don't know which activity number is it, but you can put it in your assignments. Okay. Yes, Saima, you should. Okay, because one of the drawbacks or some errors, or why this sentence or this paragraph, which consists of only one sentence, is complicated and we are unable to understand in the first reading, is because of its length, right? So when you will divide it into 2 or 3 sentences, things would be clearer, right? So I have no idea which activity number is it, but you should be doing it in your assignments. Okay, so wherever you have done this, just post that in your assignments, right? Okay, now moving towards what we were doing, we started writing presentation. Okay, so we'll continue writing that down, and I'll leave you with that presentation. You need to complete it. Okay, so let's begin. What should be the qualities of your presentation? We have already started it, and we have tried to hook the audience. Okay, so let me take you to the page. Here we are on chapter 2, and we've done stage fright, and we have done how to come over this stage fright. Today we are going to look at, you have already chosen one of the topics, right? Let me add some of your class fellows. Okay, so you have already selected one of these topics I gave you, and I added maybe 1 or 2 more topics. So one is already selected. Okay, now what you're supposed to do, We'll be coming back to this, but since we have started our exercise with hooking the audience, and I told you how do you start your presentation. You start your presentation with something interesting, so that your audience stay at their seats. Okay, they feel that there is something interesting for them in your presentation. So we talked about starting the presentation with a joke, adding some humor. It can be an anecdote, some story. You can share your personal experience also. You can start it with a quotation. You can start with some poetry. You can start it with some verse. So anything that is quite relevant to what you are about to speak, um, you can start it with that. Okay. In many of the debate competition, you must have seen that these participants start their debates or speeches with some verses. Okay. So that is, just to attract the attention of the audience and telling them that there's something interesting coming their way. Right now, as far as humor is concerned, I don't know how many of you have used humor, right? But there are some you know uh, starting your presentation with some joke is really interesting. Okay, if you have a good sense of humor and if the joke is relevant. But there are some dangers of starting your presentation with a joke, right? Sometimes if you do not realize the background of your audience, or the age group of your audience, or they vary in their age groups, or your joke is related to one particular field that your audience is not well acquainted with, so the joke gets flat. It does not get a good feedback in a way that people would not laugh. Okay, and it leaves a negative impression. Okay, since the beginning of your talk. But if you think and you believe that you have a good sense of humor and you have added relevant humor into it, or relevant joke, then there are certain benefits of humor. Okay, it really shows that you are someone very interesting and you are someone worth listening, because if you begin your presentation with something humorous, it relaxes the audience. Okay, it makes them comfortable. It makes your speech enjoyable. Okay, it removes any hostility, if there is any, between you and your audience, or the topic is very, very sensitive. So it becomes easier to listen about sensitive topics, or it becomes a little relaxing for speaking on such topics. Okay, so it overcomes introductions that may be overly flattening. So it takes you away from mundane kind of introductions that might be boring. And then they show that you have an interesting personality, right? And if your subject or if your topics are dry, basically the topics that are assigned to you for presentation are not really interesting. I don't see them as very, very interesting topics. So if your topics are dry, so starting with humor is a great idea. Okay, it takes the dryness of the subject away, right? But as I told you, humor is very high risk, right? If your joke goes flat in the very beginning, it really affects you psychologically. It may takes away your confidence. Okay, it may bring hostility between you and the audience, or it may bring in boredom for your audience, right? So uh, this is, it's a very good thing. I don't know how many of you have begun your presentation with it, but that's I'm telling you that it's very, very risky also. Okay, Now, there is a little speaking exercise that I would like you to do. I would like you to read this passage, okay, before we move on. About Crystal, understanding your audience. Crystal had been asked to speak to a group of customers who were taking a tour of her plant. From here, Crystal's story till here, okay. And I'm giving you 3 minutes for this activity. You may open your books. I think Larab has shared the book again in the group, right? So just in 3 minutes, we are going to do this reading activity, and then we move on to what you do in your presentation. Hopefully, during this lecture, we would be able to complete our presentation writing, okay? And I told you that hopefully we'll be on campus for these presentations, okay? Right. In 3 minutes, you would be doing this reading activity, and then we move forward. Yes, Masuma, I would like Masuma to speak. Yes, Masuma, what did you learn in this reading activity? What's happening? Masuma, you can unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Crystal, should I start?
Yeah, please.
Crystal, who was a girl, she has to visit a group of people to her farm, where she and her group members where she and her group members had to give a tour of her plant to the customers. She was supposed to talk about the area where she and her group members had worked, but she was unable to uh, means she was not sure that what should she talk about with the
Mm-hmm.
members with the group uh, who was visiting the farm. But as she decided to go and talk with her supervisor, and her supervisor told that you should give them a simple and brief information about the quality of your plants, because they are not technicians, and they does not need to know everything about it. That's all.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Masuma. Okay. Uh, I hope Masuma's point is clear, and you have already done this. Now, what does it tell us? Now, Chris's story tells us the significance of knowing your listeners. Okay, you should know your listeners, their background, the knowledge that they need to have, or the knowledge that they already have. Okay, now Crystal has to show the customers. This group of people who are visiting the farm are actually the customers. Okay, we are not told what Crystal does at this plant, but we only know that she has to brief the customers. Now, the interest of the customer is different. Okay, the customers are interested in the quality of the product. So, Crystal was really confused whether she should tell them how the products are made, right? Customers are not interested in how the products are made, but they are really interested that the quality of the products that they are buying should be good. Okay, so it's like she needed to market the products actually. Okay, and she wasn't required to use jargons or tell them technically how the products are manufactured, right? Since we are not told what kind of products these people were making, Crystal and the teammates, but we are told that the people who are touring the plant are the customers. Okay, so Crystal needs to look at the interest of the customers, what they might be interested in. Okay, had the plant been visited by some technical people, they would be interested in knowing the machinery that is used to produce those products. Okay, and they might be interested in the process through which those products are really made. So the talk becomes very different according to the audience, right? So whenever you're preparing a presentation, right now the presentation that you would be preparing, the audience probably would be your class fellows and your teacher. Okay. Otherwise, beyond your degrees, you'll be presenting um, a lot of times, right? So what you need to know is who would be the audience at your speech or at your presentation, who would be attending your presentation, right? So this is why this story is given to us. So whenever I give you a reading activity, I would like you to connect it with what we are doing, and to just get the crux, what the writer wants us to know. So this story of Crystal tells us about the importance or the significance of knowing your audience. Okay, because the same kind of presentation or the same kind of speech becomes different when it comes to speaking to different group of people. Okay, so taking the example of like a recent vacation, right? Now, if you are describing your recent vacation to your class fellows, you need to know, how many might have visited the place that you're telling us about. Okay, and how many of them might be interested in traveling and you know um, going somewhere for the vacations, right? So uh, there are few things that you need to keep in your mind, which is called as listeners analysis, right? Besides preparing your presentation, uh, you need to keep the listeners in your mind. Who would be your listeners for the presentation? For the present presentation, I told you that uh, probably it would only be your class fellows from both CS and IT, and then perhaps it would be your teacher only. Okay. Why is Maru getting disconnected again and again? Let me add few students. Okay. So what do you do in your listeners analysis as you start preparing your presentation? Okay. You need to know, what do my listener want to know, right? Um, if you do not provide information that interests them, um, you will, they will get bored. You are bringing boredom to your presentation. You are unable to hook the audience for sometimes, because you're not telling them what they might be interested in. Okay, and also you need to know that this attention span of human beings is very small. Okay, so you need to keep their attention. It's very difficult to keep the attention, um, even in the lectures and in the classrooms also, but your presentation should be so interesting that um, they shouldn't be looking here and there. So what you need to know is what your listeners want to know. Okay, taking the example of a recent vacation, if I am your audience, I would be interested in knowing the place, the hotels, the food, all of these things, and how do you reach that place? Do you go to that place through by air, by train, by road? What How can we access that place? Okay, where is that place? If that place is in Pakistan, I would be interested in knowing how much money did you spend on this vacation. Okay, so that I can plan my own. I'm just giving you an example. So if you have chosen the topic of recent vacation, these are few things that I would really like to know as listener. Okay. Where did you go? Of course, you would be describing the place. I would be less interested in the description of the place in detail. Okay. I'll be more interested in how did you reach there? Which hotel did you stay in? What food did you eat? Okay, and how was the place for women? Uh, were there many families and all that? Okay, how is the security situation. So because I am a listener who is interested in traveling, right? So I would be, interested to know all these, because perhaps I would plan to have my vacations at that place, right? So it's very important to know what your listeners would like to know, right? The second thing is, how much do they already know? Okay. As far as you would be telling us about your recent vacations. Now, if you had your recent vacations somewhere near the city, Quetta city. So probability is that many of us might have visited it. Okay. So for example, um, if you tell us that you went to some place which is near our own city, so um, perhaps you would know. If you tell us that you have gone to the northern areas, that's a popular place too. Many people already know about it. If you have traveled beyond that internationally, so the chances are that mm, most of us have not gone there. So you need to know how many people or in your audience might know the place already. Okay, so how much do they already know, right? So you don't want to talk down to your listeners, but you also don't want to speak over their heads, right? So determine what your audience knows, and pitch your talk to your audience level of understanding, right? So do not repeat if we already know about the place. Okay, but even if we have visited the place that you have visited or you are visiting, then tell us something new that many people might not know about that place. Okay, right. The third thing that you would like to do in your listener analysis is, where do they stand? Your listeners may be likely to agree with what you are saying, or they may need a lot of convincing. You need to find out their attitudes, um, and what to say to persuade them of your point of view. If we fit this analysis or this point of analysis to our topic of recent vacations, so your objective should be to convince your audience that they should visit the place, that the place that you visited as a place of your recent vacations is worth visiting. Okay, so if your listeners agree to that, this would be your success of the presentation. Okay, if your speech or if your presentation makes them curious about the place and they would love to travel to that place, that means your presentation was successful. Okay, so this is how you would do the listeners analysis. So you should know a little background about your listeners before you start to speak. And I think you're in the third semester, so we know most of our class fellows in a year and a half. Okay, so I have just given you an example of listeners analysis as far as one of the topics is concerned. Other than that, uh, you have already done summary sentences. The activity is already done. So you need to use that summary sentence somewhere in the beginning after you have hooked the audience. Okay, and then you have to repeat it so that you cannot um, deviate from your presentation topic. You need to remind yourself as well as the audience what is the focus of your speech. So you will again refer to your summary sentence. And then in the end also, while you would be concluding, so you need to get back to your summary sentence. So everything, that is the significance and the importance of summary sentence, that your presentation revolves around those sentences. It wouldn't let you, a good summary sentence would not let you uh, distracted from your topic. right? You would not get distracted from the topic that you're trying to present, you're trying to convince people about. So this is what most of us do in our presentation when we do not know how to present. Many speakers simply launch into a presentation without ever explaining their purpose for speaking. They expect the audience to figure it out. Frequently, the audience does not or won't figure it out and they quickly lose interest. Okay, do not rely on the audience. That if you would be haphazard, they will figure it out, they will make it out. They will not. Okay, they'll try, of course they will try, but they would not exert so much of their brains to understand something that is not coherent and cohesive, right? So this is what I was telling you. As a matter of fact, through research, the attention span is only 7 minutes. Okay, so within 7 minutes you need to grasp their attention so that they continue to listen to your presentation. Okay, so this is the importance of summary sentences. Always refer back to the summary sentences. It is not necessary that you keep on repeating the summary sentence in your speech, but by referring, I mean that you should keep the summary sentences in mind in order to avoid any deviation from the main topic that you are discussing. Okay. Now, what you're supposed to do, we are already done with the first step. Of course, you need to hook the audience through the techniques that we have learned, and then you have to tell them about the purpose through the summary sentence or through whatever means you want to tell the purpose of your presentation. Okay. Uh, okay. Another reading activity is Gerald, and how did he begin his presentation? Right. Now, we just read this and then we can move forward to the second step of our presentation after the beginning. Okay, and for this activity I'm giving you like maybe 2 minutes. Okay, start reading till I add some of your class fellows here. Okay, now through this example of Gerald, you are going to know how can you write down your presentation. So Gerald opted for one of the ways of hooking the audience that we have already done last time. He starts it with a personal anecdote, his own experience, his own story. Okay, so that helped him hook his listeners. Now, then he moved to the purpose or the summary sentence. Okay, another way that Gerald could begin with is, to give those facts and figures that the audience did not know already. So he knows his audience, and those audience might be interested in numbers. Okay, so he gives them statistics. That can be a good beginning. So either he would start with an anecdote and then move to the summary sentence, or he can start according to the interest of the audience with some interesting statistics, and then he can move to the summary sentence. So what we conclude with this story is that you start with the activity that we did last time, is to hook the audience, and then you have to tell the purpose through your summary sentence, meaning thereby that you should be able to relate your story, the joke, verse, anecdote, experience, quotation to your purpose. Okay, so if your purpose, if your summary sentence matches with what you have written as to begin your presentation that we did last time as an activity, you will see if they both go together. If your starting, that you have used to hook the audience, go well with your summary sentence. That means you have begin your presentation perfectly fine. Okay. Yeah, Maru, I got you. Okay, don't worry, I got you. Right. So this is how these are some of the ways, but what I want to tell you is that you start with what we have done last time, and then you move on to the summary sentence, right? Other than that, what you are going to do is, you know, it is not really important that your presentation should be too long, right? There's one of the examples of Lincoln's Gettysburg's Address. It's a very short and an effective writing. Okay. For your homework, I would like to give you this reading. You just need to search on Google Lincoln's Gettysburg's Address, right? Because it is a perfect example of concise kind of a talk, okay, or a very concise kind of a writing. So um, your presentation, meaning thereby that your presentation can be short, but it has to be effective, it has to be interesting, it has to be informative. Okay. Now, uh, just check this. I think there are some attentive students like Marok and Lareb and maybe Kiran and all the people who have been participating in the class. Please remember this and convey it to your class fellows who might not be very attentive right now or who might be absent from today's class. Okay, so for your homework, I would like you to read. Now, what you're going to do as your activity today is to, complete your presentation. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to write the body of your presentation. Last time we began the presentation, okay? Today you are going to connect this beginning with your summary sentence, one thing, and then you are going to work on the body of the sentence, body of your presentation. The body comes after the introduction, okay? Uh, Now, what you are going to do is you're going to, give examples in the body, whatever you want to, because in summary sentence you have already told that what are you going to narrate. So now you are going to elaborate on that summary sentence. If you said that I'll give you examples, or if I talk about again the recent vacations, so you would tell us three really interesting things that you did on your vacations, right? You can talk about the place there where you stayed. You can talk about the food that you enjoyed that we do not know about, okay? Some different kind of a food of that particular area. Okay, that would be informative for us. And anything, okay? So at least you would be giving us three examples or three things as far as your recent vacations are concerned. In a similar way, you can work on the other topics, okay? And your presentation time would be like 5 minutes, okay? So prepare your presentation according to the time also. This is also a skill, right? So in the body, you'll give us some examples related to the topic, okay? And those things, should bring your ideas to life and hold the attention of the audience. And all this should be well connected. It should strengthen the purpose of your talk, and everything should move around the summary sentences, okay? That is why I told you, if in the body you are going to elaborate your summary sentence, then you are to the point, okay? Now finally, you can repeat the purpose, and you can illustrate it with an interesting story from your own experience or for something you have read. Concrete, specific, you can make a talk, the more likely your audience is to remember it, okay? Now finally, it's really up to you. How do you end your presentation? Conclusion is basically the summary, okay? Um, you can, summarize it. You can again tell the purpose as well, and you can conclude it in an interesting way also. Okay. So since your presentation is very short, when your presentation is like half hour or 45 minutes, so you can add more stories to it. Even you can end the presentation with a story, but the kind of presentation you are writing right now should not have another story, because you have already given a story in the beginning. So I would like you to conclude it. You can conclude it with a verse or a quotation, that's fine, but you should be, summing it all up. Okay. Conclude it properly. You can give your own opinion in the conclusion section also. For instance, as far as your recent vacation ending is concerned, you would try, you have already tried to convince the audience in the body of the presentation. So finally, you would just say something just to check if your audience or the listeners are convinced and they are also interested to visit the same place. Now, Kiran, I'm going to reply to you in a while, okay? This is your homework, uh, reading homework, okay? Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, which is only of 268 words, okay? Now, once you have written your presentation, as I would leave you, you would be writing your presentation, you would be completing it. So your presentation would only be of like 3 paragraphs. One of the paragraphs you have already written last time. Today you're going to write down the body by giving examples or elaborating on your summary sentence, and then you are summing it all up in the 3rd paragraph, right? Now, as we were talking about the stage fright, and we talked about being prepared, which can reduce or remove your stage fright. So practice makes you perfect. Okay. So you need to practice your presentation before presenting it to your audience. Okay. The more you practice speaking before coming onto the stage or to your classroom for your presentation, so the better you would be. Okay. So creating a successful speech, of course, takes time. When I am telling you this, I would also like to tell you that I would not prefer paper reading. Okay. Your speech is more effective when you are talking to the to the audience or to your listeners. Okay. When you start reading, your listeners lose eye contact with you, and they lose with losing eye contact, they also lose their interest. Always remember that. So you can keep the paper with you, the written presentation, for the points, for the help sometimes, but I would like you to learn your presentation. By learning, I mean you need to practice your presentation. Okay. So briefly, you need to know your purpose. You should give it plenty of time. I think you have 3 weeks for your presentation now. You're going to hook the audience, right? You are going to tell them the purpose. You should overcome your stage fright, and we have done some techniques to overcome that. You should be knowing some stories, anecdotes, make it interesting. Um, So you need to reflect also how is your speech, and you can improve on this. Okay. And of course, never stop practicing till your final day presentation. You need to rehearse it several times. That would make you very, very comfortable. That would take your stage fright away as well. So what we are doing right now, as I would leave you with some class activity, is to, you have done this, you have constructed an interesting opening. Now you are going to make 3 points uh, in the body. You are going to write about the body, and you're going to In this body, you are going to write about the examples, some facts, some anecdotes, whatever. Okay, focus on these examples that perhaps are part of your summary sentence. And then you would create a conclusion. This book advises you to fall back on your uh, summary sentence. Okay, so with this we have finished this chapter also. By the time you will get up after this class, your written presentation, at least first draft of the presentation, would be ready. Okay, I don't think I would be able to check those drafts, but of course I would see once you come for the presentation.